Okay, this is for Deretu. This is showcasing the thumbnail that I recently made for Fragile, and I'll show you step by step on how I made it, my process, my thinking, and everything like that. Um, so this is the final product of this thumbnail, Fragile. So let's go to the beginning, which is way down here. Now you may say, my organizing skills are pretty rough. Um, but let's just start. Right. Sorry about that. So pretty quick. This is the normal screenshot that you would just. It's pretty easy, right? You have your normal white background, and then you throw in your screenshot. Pretty easy. Um, then what I do is good practice is making a copy of your thumbnail. But I think I did it here. Is where I touched around camera raw filter, and then I touched around lens correction, which is gonna be like slanting, like rotating your stuff. This is what I use to rotate my stuff. You might see it in my thumbnail, in the time lapse. You might see it in that time lapse that I sent. Uh, um, that I at the beginning I slanted it a little bit, or rotated it a little bit. But this is what I use. This is pretty good, and then you can, oh, oops, and then you can make the whole thumbnail like if I put it to max, you see the edges are like going like I don't know. They're getting distorted basically. But this is what I use to distort my screenshots or rotate them or give it perspective. Which if I put it like this, you see it's giving me perspective. Put it like this. So that's what I use. So that's what I use here. I'm pretty sure. No, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. Then I made a copy, which is this. And now you may notice that it gives a blur. It blurs out some structures. So what I do for that is, uh, what I generally do is use tilt shift. Tilt shift is going to be this middle area. You see this middle area right here where the circle is. This is where it's not really going to blur. Outside of these dotted lines and going into transitioning into this area is going to start blurring less until here. So basically, the outside of the dotted lines is going to be the most blur. The most is blurry, and in between here, it's going to be transitioning from being blurred out to being focused back in. You know, see, it's not really blurry, but it's still somewhat blurry. And then here, it's not going to be blurry anymore. So that's what I used in this case, and then I rotated it like so. I think I rotated it like this, and then I put it like this. Then I did something like this. And then you can move these around as well. Something like that I did in the thumbnail. And also I did like 10% or something like that. And then I also messed with the light bokeh. What that does is basically if I blur it out. What this does basically is if you see it gives some light like that. But you're just gonna have to figure it out and mess around with it. But that's what I did for this. Then after this is where I start generally um putting like messing around with the light values and shadows and stuff like that, like the darks and the light values. I put in this thumbnail. I did a levels adjustment, and this is gonna be default. Like if you turn it on, that's gonna be how it is. Like find it here, put levels. This is how it's gonna show up like that. So what I did is I messed around with it, and this is what I ended up with. And I also put it in lighten. You can try out different blending modes, but I put it in lighten in this case, and I put it in 50%. I put it in 100%. I thought it was a little bit too much, and I wanted a subtlety. I wanted some subtlety. But that's it. Then here is something that might be tricky for you, but basically I use the layer mask, which every adjustments uh, has it. I'm pretty sure everything here it has a layer mask, if I'm not wrong. But what I did is I did a layer mask. I used the layer mask. But here, let's say I didn't do a layer mask. How do I? Let's just remove it and then make another one. You see exposure. So what I do is it's a little trick where I turned everything to where it's dark, and then I use these values, and then paint it, and then I choose where to paint, where I want these types of values, dark values, and put it to a specific part. So I did on the layer mask, Control I if you're on Windows, Command I think if you're on Mac. So to invert it, so it doesn't show anymore. And then I grab my brush and I do an actual brush, and then I use white to paint, and then paint the parts that I want to paint, that are that I want to paint with this value that I use right here. And then I paint away, and then until I get something I like. Maybe I turned it down because I think I did here. Yeah, 50%. Then I turned it down, and then I keep painting, and then brushing until I get what I like, which ends up this. A little bit, not much, but it's subtle and it's enough. It's notable. It's noticeable. It's enough. It's enough. Then I did that again, but for the light parts, which is this. But right here, if you see, I did the opposite. Instead of this being on the left side like this, see, this is for lighter. And then I painted it again. So I'm gonna do it again here. Exposure. Turn this. And then what I did was something around like this. It turns everything white. Right? But then I want something specific out of it. So I want something like this. And then I might mess around with the, yeah, I put it out like 64. I almost did it. And then I might mess around with like, oh, I want a little bit less here. A little bit less. Something like that. And then I might want to keep painting like this or something. Something like that. Oh, wait, let me. So like this, and then like that. Almost close enough. Delete that. And I kept doing that basically 2 more times for specific parts like these. You'll see the difference. And this would be a levels adjustment. You can do this with exposure levels or brightness or contrast, which is what I did here. This is for shading, like dark shadows on the left side of like a lot of things. See, like here, like down here, and then this, I think. Yeah, the left side of this here, I think. Stuff like that. Then for the last thing, I grab the cube, which if you want to know how to do that, it's go here, and then you're gonna like pick it like this, something like this. It's not going to do it perfect. And then you're gonna copy it with Command J or Control J. Gonna put it here. It's not perfect, but it'll do. And then I did some sort of gradient on it. I think it was this one. Then I something like that. Right, something like this. And that actually looks better, but no matter. So that's gonna be it for the background. I'm just trying to go as quick as possible. So here I added a texture. I'm not really sure what texture it is. If I put it back to normal, okay, it's just like splatter, like splashes of a paint or something, and then I use that as okay. So yeah, I don't know why I added that. Looking back at it, but I did add that. So don't worry about it. Oh God. Okay. I did. It kind of looks bad, but you can add your own things. Just gonna make sure it didn't pause, froze, or anything. Well, 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Next is the text, which is probably the main thing, one of the big things that you want to learn how to do. Text layers, like layer styles, are pretty difficult. Like depending on the level, right? What kind of feeling you're getting, depending on the font, whatever. Um, I say just really just mess around. So I'm gonna go. I don't know if I should go one by one. I'm gonna delete the ones that I don't have. Some of some of this, that. Okay. So I'm gonna turn off everything. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so I got obviously the normal text. Yeah, and then this isn't how it's normally is. Basically, what I did is just casual. Whoops. Gradual, and then I took the text and set the right. Then I took the text and I warped it. I made it as big as I wanted it to be. Then I control I, and then I warped it. Not like that actually. I did a. I think I messed around with something like this, but I don't. But if not, if you don't want to mess around with that, you can just. Oh, what did I do? Okay. You can just control T for transform, and then you can warp or distort or perspective. Now you would have to turn this into a smart object like that, so you'll be able to distort your perspective like that. You see. Um, I think I warped it. I'm not sure what I did. I don't remember what I did exactly, but mess around with mess around basically with this right here. Uh, Go to I don't know, like something like this. That can work. This can work. Stuff like that. If you don't like that either, if you don't want too much of that, you can always like perspective, distort, or warp. I think I distorted. No, I don't think so. I really forgot what I did, but basically just do one of those two options. So now for the effects. So bevel is a pretty cool thing, I'd say, to use on like a lot of text. Like it's a very safe thing to do. Like it gives this cool like outline stroke. It's not really a stroke though. Um, Generally speaking, you're gonna do. I have my own presets, but you're gonna do inner bevel. Do whatever with this. I usually do it with 1,000, but you can do. Sometimes I do some different stuff for different, just different outcomes and see what it looks like, and sometimes it actually works out better. You're gonna do very tiny size. You're gonna do between 5 to 10, sometimes maybe 15, but for fonts that are bold, like a girthy, like they're big like this, wide width. But if for fonts like are very like a stick, like bevel isn't really gonna do much for you. That's why you want to really want like big fonts, like that have like big letters like this. But you're gonna do between 5 or 10, between 5, 10, or sometimes maybe 15. But anything beyond that, it's just experimenting, and it can be something cool like this. But again, generally speaking, like 10, it doesn't look bad. 15, if I put it 15, okay, it's a little bit too much now. Anything beyond that is gonna be weird, and it's gonna give some weird effects. But you might want this actually. It could look good if you make it work. But in this case, I'm telling you, I use 6. Soften. I never really touch this. You don't have to worry about it. If you want to experiment, do it. Do it. Angle and shade. This is the shading part. So basically, I say the light source is coming from a 45-degree angle, which it is. It's coming from the right corner, 45 degrees. The altitude is 30. Leave it like that. You can always experiment. But these presets, gloss counter, contour, these are pretty cool, and you're usually gonna use one of these two for this type of outline, like bevel. But what I did is I used my own. I like this is my own preset. I'm pretty sure you don't get this by default. I'm pretty sure I've made my. You can make your own preset as well by just clicking on it. And you can copy this if you want if you don't have it. Then I did color dodge, 100. Yeah. Okay. So now we did inner shadow to make this give a 3D effect on the font. Gives it like a 3D effect. Okay, I didn't use much on it. See, like this. These are the settings. Then I went to another inner shadow. Now, you can just use inner shadow to like do like lighting on it. It doesn't have to be necessarily shadow. Uh, for this, I did this 33. If I crank it up, it's gonna be more. See, I did 33. It looked nice. It's subtle, but it has some light, dark, light, dark, light. Like, it gives that cool effect to it. And then I did like a really big size, 2, 3, 4. And then I used a different preset. This matters as well. And then I gave it another inner shadow, but with a high color dodge. And then this size 81, and then I gave it this, and I gave some noise. Noise is noise is pretty good. Oh, I did not do that. Oops. I think I let's just go back. Okay. So now uh we did satin, which really doesn't do much. You can just pick it or leave it on this thumbnail, but you may notice a difference if you're looking at the text. Like the edges are become a little bit wider, lighter. Then I did color dodge. I gave it a slight tint of purple. You might not notice it, but I do. It gives a little bit more purple. I did that because the level has the level is gonna take a little bit more purple later on after I add something else. Then I added a gradient overlay, which this is gonna be pretty important for your shading. Already you can already tell like it makes sense for this to be darker and this to remain lighter. It's because this is further away from the light source. Okay. This is the settings. Then I did another one, and this is how it looks like. Then I did a drop shadow, which I'm sure you can already know what that is. It's just behind the text. It gives shadow. And then I did 3 of them doing it. You can see the settings here. Oh, this is soft light, and this is the multiply. Multiply, you're gonna do multiply a lot of the time because sometimes other stuff just doesn't work like this. Multiply to get this type of shadowing. You're gonna see. That's about that for the text. Then you can add some texturing on it. So basically what I added was this texturing right here. I added this on top of the text, but I added it in just so it doesn't look like that. I added it on color dodge. So if we go closer, and then we turn it off, yeah, it gives that slight texturing. And then I think I added another one too. I added another one, and I put it on soft light at 33%. Now for this, I added stars, like mini stars, particles, stuff like that. It doesn't look that good right now because the next step is gonna be what makes this thumbnail, the whole base of it, basically, pretty good. Which is gonna be a gradient. Yeah. So this is the gradient. I put in blue, purple, the darkest purple, and then black. I've reversed it because if I did it like this, it's gonna look terrible. And then I did it on linear dodge. So if I did it on anything else, it didn't look that good. Also, my PC is dying. Sweet. Oh, by the way, with this with the particles, I did a layer mask. It only did parts painted in parts that I wanted to see. So it doesn't actually show all of the particles. It don't like there should be particles like in this edge right here in the corner, but I removed it. Like I didn't make it show up. Yeah. So now this is the base of the thumbnail. Like you can call this the base thumbnail. I'd say this is the base. A good base, like a good base to work with. Because it looks not bad. It looks pretty, solid. It looks fine. Then what you're gonna do, at least what I do, after I group everything, then I make a copy, and then I either Control E to flatten it, so it's not in a folder, or convert to smart object. I say do convert to smart objects for good practice, um, and for convenience. How long is this going for? 22 minutes. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Um, so basically, after I do a duplicate, I do, yeah. So this is gonna be the duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. So you can kind of notice there's more purple now. So the reason why there's more purple now is because after I did this and I duplicated it and flattened it, I went to camera raw filter on this new copy and I added in some purple right here and then like some blue. Like I did some stuff. Yeah, I just adjusted stuff. And you can always take out the light. You see, and I mess around with this with the just a little bit like this, something like this. Not really sure what I did, but I did something, and then I added some grain, and then I didn't really touch that. You can always touch other stuff and mess around, but I did something like this. Did something like this, right? But that's already done. Like this is what I did. Like I already did. I can't do it again, or else it's gonna look like that, very ugly, like how it just showed. So just mess around with that. Do a copy, and then never touch this again, basically. Or just keep making copies out of this, or make copies out of these. Um, like this. Control J to make copies. By the way. But then after I did that, I made a copy of this. Now this is like it's like the base, but like it has camera raw. So like base plus cam, like raw. So now I take that and then I duplicated a bunch, or not actually a bunch. So final, well. So I duplicate it, I put it here. I turn it into a smart object because it's way more convenient. And then I start doing Gaussian blur. I do 5 pixels, and then I do light in 25%. I do hard light 13%, 5%, 5 pixels still. Then I do soft light, it's 20%, 25 pixels here. This is 25 pixels. This is linear dodge, and then 20 pixels. And then the last one I do is color dodge or lighten for 30 pixels. And then that's my glow. And that's where it really, really does its job. And how you're gonna do Gaussian blur, you're gonna go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian. It's gonna show you here. You see, like it just blurred everything for me. So that's how it's gonna be it. And then the last two things that I added. Uh, Sometimes this isn't the last two things. I added like like in here, or like after this, or in this, because you can add grain in the camera raw. But I added it at the last second. It's just some grain, some noise, so it looks very nice. See, if you want to see it like this, see, you can tell it's right there. All that noise. Let's see if I can. Yes. Nah. Uh, yeah. Then the text looks nice. The whole thumbnail looks nice. This is gonna be that's about it. I did this 50%, 70% color dodge, overlay, 10%, 45%. Oh, how I did the grain, very important. If you want to do grain like this, what I do is I do like a new layer, and then I go to edit, then I go fill, and then I do 50% gray. Okay, so it's gonna do like this. Oh, let me take that out. That's grain already. So see, it's just plain old gray. So then I go to camera raw, or you can go to filter. So there's also a filter one. Then I max out the grain, I max out the roughness, and then I mess around with the size. I just leave it at 30. So that's gonna be the grain. And then what I do is Control L for levels, and then I move it around a little bit. So the darks and whites are more intense. Then I do like overlay or something like that. You see, it's very noticeable here because it's at 100% like fill and opacity. Or I do something like soft light, which is like it's like overlay but softer, kind of. Then I mess around with the you see the fill, pick it out. You see, that's basically what I did there with these two. And that's about it. Obviously, this thumbnail isn't like insane, uh, but it's a good step in in the right direction, at least for this style. There's always obviously like a billion styles, but if you like this type of thumbnail, you can just try it. But I recommend after you trying it, or while trying it, like experiment and try your own colors or like adjustments or styles, like layer styles for the text, like different types of shading, something like that. Um, but yeah, that's really about it. That's really it. That's my process for this thumbnail. I can always try and record the afterthought, like the after doing it, because I really can't record while I'm doing the thumbnail, you know. Um, but yeah, thank you.